Move on to our favorite prop bets. We got some plus money coming up here. Gippers, we have an exciting fight to talk about for your favorite prop bet with a ton of bad blood in it. Tell me who you like.
Silva by KO at a plus 120. I think Silva is going to be better everywhere on the feet. And the one thing I like about Silva is he's not going to rush anything. He's very calculated. He's very patient. And he's going to look for that right shot that he has. And his jab could knock anybody out. And I really wish that we could put money down on exactly what it's going to be. But I could see a left jab, right hook for the knockout. Now, Mitchell may have his moments in the first round, maybe with a takedown, but I see Silva fighting back up. You know, he's one of the fighting nerds fighters. And you know that they've been working a lot, you know, with him on his takedown defense. And, you know, so I really like this play a lot. And I'm also going to sprinkle second round knockout.
Picking an exact round here. The fighting nerds are the hottest gym in MMA right now, and Gene Silva might be their best product. He's going to come out barking like a dog, and he's going to put on damage. He's on a crazy knockout streak, but he's, like you mentioned, up against an elite wrestler in Mitchell. We may have some debate later here. I'm curious from Josh, before we get into the full meat of this fight and break it down, do you think that Mitchell's chin can last, or do you think it's going to be a matter of wrestling versus striking?
Yeah, Danny, more likely the latter, but I think if you're going to play Silva, that's the correct way. I mean, it's such a steep price. And let's face it, that's his most likely path to victory. So I think instead of just laying that thick chalk, we know that's what's had him gain his popularity so far as a rising prospect, these flashy knockouts with the power. You might as well just take the plus money and bet him that way. But you're right, it remains to be seen. I mean, we've also seen Mitchell, as it stands, his 2 losses are in the UFC are to great power punchers. Can he stand up to a third? Or can he keep Silva busy just defending the takedowns and maybe squeeze out rounds with ground control? That's the key question there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Gipper's very much liking Silva to find that knockout shot in the round 2. He likes it. Look out for those exact round props as well. Josh, let's move on to your favorite prop bet of the night. You're looking at the main event. So touch on this one. You got big plus money on your pick.
Sure, Danny. I don't want to completely scoop our main event discussion here, but it's one of those deals where I feel like both the outcome and the method of outcome are correlated, right? It's not unlike a point spread bet where you might say in college football, well, if you take this favorite, you might as well take the over because it's a high-scoring team. If they cover the 14, it's for sure going over 52 points or whatnot. And so I feel that way, in the main event, where if you take Diego Lopes, who I do like to win the main event, I mean, to me, his most logical path to victory is going to be that knockout and likely early. If you think about the history there, Volkanovski, by his own admission, he jokes that, he can't possibly be submitted because he has no neck. You figure if guys like, Brian Ortega and Islam Makhachev couldn't do it, I mean, it's unlikely, even though Lopez has great, grappling and jiu-jitsu, that he gets submitted. The deeper it goes, the fight probably favors Volkanovski because we've seen Lopez, gas out a little bit in the longer fights. So to me, if he wins, I feel like a real strong percentage knockout. And so even though you can get him to win still at slightly plus money, why not take that huge price and you bet that outcome?
And it's a very interesting way to play it. By his own admission, you mentioned the no-neck Volkanovski. We've seen it with other fighters. This isn't just a joke. This is a real thing. Some guys have such meaty muscles in their traps and neck. You can't find the choke. They just turn a little bit, and it's not accessible. So perhaps that is, in fact, the case. And perhaps Lopez, instead of using that crafty and skillful BJJ, just looks to test that potentially cracked chin of Volkanovski. So, Josh, going with the plus 275 prop. I'll have to match him in kind a little. We got some great plus money. So I'm going with a plus 260 play, and I already touched on it in the prelims. My favorite prop bet is Virna Jandiroba by submission. I do believe, like Gippers mentioned, that she will take Yan Xiaonan down. She will lace up that body triangle, and her back takes are just too lethal. If Yan is forced to fight rear naked chokes for multiple rounds, eventually I think Virna finds one or even jumps an armbar. Typically, I would be furious with a fighter at this elite level jumping an armbar because these guys are very good at armbar defense. Virna's armbars are the best in the game, I think. They're lethal, and we saw her tap Amanda Lemos out in the first round last fight 2-1. So I trust her to even maintain control. If she jumps a tricky position, right, she can just lace that triangle right back up and go back to work. So I think Virna controls this fight with her grappling, and eventually she finds the submission. Plus 260 play for you guys. Aaron Taylor's in the comments. He says, I'm learning a lot. I love to hear that. Nothing more than spreading fight knowledge warms my heart. All right, we've gotten through our favorite prop bets. Now you guys love these. The parlays are coming. Gippers, master parlay man of his round props. So let's start with you, man. You got a 3-legger combining different round plays, Gippers. How do you like to build a parlay in this one?
Well, this is my favorite method of building parlays. Is I've got 3 fights that I'd like to go long, and the first one is the Ige Woodson. Both of them have only had 1 stoppage, while I think it's like 27 fights in the UFC or something like that. And then both Chandler fight and the Lopes fight are both 5-round fights, and I see both of those fights getting off to a more calculated, slower start. So I like those. I like the Chandler fight to start second, and then the Lopes over 1.5, combined with Woodson over 2.5 plus 110. And the last leg is 100% on purpose, a minus 500, because if it gets to the last leg, I will be hedging, because I watched Cejudo get his eye gouged out and ruin one of my parlays like a month and a half ago, and I'm not going to let that happen again.
And it's always a good way to play your UFC parlays. Use the main event as a last leg, and especially if you're a chalk last leg, you can hedge a plus money side at the end of it and put yourself in a really good position. And you're doing that with that over 1.5 in the end. I very much like where you're headed with these. Betting overs in UFC is almost like betting unders in other sports. You're
100.
hoping for things not to happen, right?
You know how many times I even start like counting the seconds down on the like I start counting in my head. I'm almost there. I only got like 1 more minute to go, and I got this.
I'm the same exact way, just taking the minutes, listen to the coaches, watching every defensive position, please. But it's a really fun way to sweat out your parlays. And I like the fights that you pick to go a little deeper. So plus 110 parlay on that. Very nice.
I think I took 5 years off of my life by doing these overs.
Yeah, they'll make you sweat for sure. It's a cage fight. You're betting on guys to last in a cage fight. So, hey, man, we've seen the people, though, that you're backing, I think, have the mettle to go deep in these fights. And I like the way you broke it down. Josh, you have the spiciest parlay of the 3 of us, plus 635 on yours. Break down your 3 legs.
Yeah, Danny, that's a little conservative for my taste. Like in terms of my parlay goals, I'm the shoot for the stars kind of guy, right? I mean, I want to give out the 6-legger that I put $25 on to win $2,000. That's just what I go for. And sometimes, hey, you never know, the stars align and you hit something. But I always like to put in a little plus money just to juice it up a little bit. And again, as we mentioned in the main event, just these various outcomes I do feel are correlated. So Volkanovski versus Lopes under 3.5 rounds. I do believe if Lopes wins by knockout, as we have on the prop play, it's likely early. I suppose it could happen late, but I feel like he probably gets there in the first 2 rounds if it's going to happen. And they're giving us, I think, around plus 115-ish on that total, which I like. I took Yair Rodriguez by decision and sort of with a bittersweet taste, because I like Patricio Pitbull. And believe it or not, I'm actually kind of hoping he wins, but when it comes right down to it, I feel like this is kind of a rough matchup for him. I mean, Rodriguez is so sleek and athletic, and if he just uses his agility in the kickboxing to roam around, land some strikes, and win some rounds, I feel like that's the most probable outcome. I think we're getting about plus 125 on that. And then the one is sort of chalky play that I had nowhere else to go, what I mentioned before, which would have been my previous prelim, is Nikita Krylov, who I just feel like he's going to win the fight. Yeah, he's a bit of an enigmatic fighter, right? It feels like Krylov's been ranked number 8 in his division for about 10 straight years. And then when you look at the rankings, that's basically because he has. When you look at his career trajectory, he's had some long layoffs and some bouts of regular activity, but now he's coming off this 2-year layoff. I like Dominic Reyes and the comeback story. It's amazing. I'm just happy, he won any fights after the punishment he went through. But let's face it, they gave him a pretty soft landing spot there with Dustin Jacoby and Anthony Smith. So this is his first climb up against a legitimate top 10 guy, and I just feel like Krylov ultimately has a little more vast tool set there, and I feel like he gets there.
This is a really interesting plus 635. You brought up three great fights, and I really enjoy the way you broke it down. That Krylov, you mentioned the Dominic Reyes second wind of his career. I'll be rooting for him, but you're not wrong. They gave him a tough matchup. Krylov is good everywhere. So I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for the Patricio Pitbull, Yair Rodriguez fight we'll touch on a little more, and I like your plus 635 shot there. My parlay, a little more conservative. I like the two-leg money line parlays. I go with a lot of UFC spreads lately, but these are two fighters that I like to get it done. First fight of the night, the curtain jerker. Sometimes not one you want to jump in right away, because if you get it wrong, well, then down goes the ship right on the first fight. But I think minus 175 is a pretty fair price tag for Nora Cornole, French kickboxer who has a good clinch game. I think she has a lot more damage upside in this fight. She can lace up that plum grip with the Muay Thai clinch and land knees and elbows on the inside. And I think she'll have plenty of opportunities to do so because her opponent, Haley Cowan, is pretty much a pure grappler who I don't think is UFC caliber. I just don't think that she belongs in the promotion. She has some skill. She's got grit, but ultimately I don't think she's going to be able to take down Cornole, who will beat her up in the clinch when she tries to take her down and fails to do so. I'm pairing her with Michal Olejejczyk, a guy whose Polish name I can now spell without checking twice. After 15 fights in the UFC, can you believe this guy has 15 fights? I think finally he's coming into the peak of his game. He's training Gippers with the fighting nerds ahead of this camp. He got the brakes beat off him by Kyle Borralho, one of the best prospects out of that gym, and then called him up and said, hey, man, can I train with you? Can you give me some of that game? And Kyle's going to be cornering from him for this fight. He's facing Cedricus Dumas, who I just don't think has the same skill level as him. Dumas has this wrestling upside, but Olejejczyk's faced a lot of stiff competition, ranked middleweights, and put them in some trouble, too. We saw him pop Kevin Holland with a good shot. He's got some tricky southpaw boxing. I think he can win this fight inside the distance. And if he's with the fighting nerds now, this is it for Olejejczyk, right? Normally, I look to back him as an underdog. You're not going to see him as a 2-1 favorite often, but I think the line